In today's video, let's talk about one of Disney's most underrated characters, Esmeralda from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This character doesn't get nearly enough credit for how complex and strong she is. So, let's dive into her backstory and take a closer look at who she really is. Esmeralda is a young Romani woman, and living in Paris isn't easy for her.
Stay away, child. They're gypsies. They'll steal us blind.
She's an outsider in a city that doesn't fully accept her, and she's constantly threatened by the corrupt and powerful Judge Frollo. Frollo sees the Romani people as nothing more than a plague, something to be feared and oppressed. But despite all the hate and prejudice directed toward her people, Esmeralda refuses to back down. She lives in a hidden place known as the Court of Miracles. It's a sanctuary for the Romani, a safe haven where they can find shelter from the hatred of the outside world. The court is led by Clopin, an enigmatic and charismatic figure who looks after his people. Esmeralda is deeply connected to her community and values their safety above all else. She knows they have to stick together if they're going to survive in a city that's bent on keeping them down. One of the things that really sets Esmeralda apart is her courage. She doesn't shy away from confronting Frollo's cruelty. In fact, she's one of the few people who's willing to stand up to him directly.
You mistreat this poor boy the same way you mistreat my people. You speak of justice, yet you are cruel to those most in need of your help.
Silence!
Justice!
Frollo is a deeply twisted character. He's convinced that the Romani deserve persecution because he believes they're nothing but thieves and witches. This shows just how corrupt and dangerous his mindset is. But Esmeralda, even in the face of his power, refuses to let his hatred define her or her people. She's determined to prove him wrong, not with words, but with action. Esmeralda is also very resourceful. She's not only quick on her feet physically, but also mentally sharp. Whether she's dodging the guards or trying to escape Frollo's grasp, she's always one step ahead. She uses her wit and cleverness to slip away from danger, and she does it effortlessly. But what makes her even more remarkable is that she isn't just brave, she's incredibly compassionate. Her acts of defiance aren't just about protecting herself. They're about standing up for others who don't have a voice, for those who are oppressed or downtrodden. She's a true protector of the vulnerable, and her kindness shines through in everything she does. A perfect example of her compassion is shown in one of the most powerful moments in the movie, her heartfelt prayer in Notre Dame. As she sings "God Help the Outcasts," Esmeralda reveals a side of herself that many might not expect given her rebellious nature. Unlike Frollo, whose faith is twisted by self-righteousness and cruelty, Esmeralda's faith is humble and pure. She's not asking for anything for herself. Instead, she's praying for those who suffer, for those who have been cast aside by society. This moment shows that her true strength doesn't come from her courage alone, but from her deep empathy for others. She is the first person to show genuine kindness to Quasimodo, the gentle and misunderstood bell ringer of Notre Dame. While most of the people in Paris saw him as a monstrous figure, someone to be feared and ridiculed because of his deformities, Esmeralda saw him differently. To her, Quasimodo isn't a monster. He is someone facing the same thing that she is, which is being cast aside by society. She saw a kindred spirit in him, someone who was also an outcast, someone who deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. Her compassion helped Quasimodo in ways no one else could. She gave him something he'd never experienced before: understanding and acceptance. Quasimodo had spent most of his life in the shadows, hidden away from the world because of how people viewed him. He was isolated and alone, with only Frollo for company, who treated him cruelly. But when Esmeralda came into his life, everything began to change. Her kindness and warmth brought him out of his shell. She showed him that he was worth more than the judgment and cruelty that others had thrown at him. It was her belief in him that helped him start to see his own value. To be honest, I wish I could go into more detail about Esmeralda's character, but there isn't a lot of backstory or extra information about her beyond what happens in the movie. So, I don't want to just rehash the events of the film. But what we do know about her is enough to see just how underrated and underappreciated she really is as a Disney character.